What's going on, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome back to another edition of the Tuffy Talk Live Show. We are 12 days out, y'all, from kickoff, man. It is crazy how close we are getting here to the start of the 2026 NC State football season. We had Meet the Pack Day yesterday. We had a Victory Day yesterday, too, as well, which was amazing to watch, to say the least, for sure. As always, you got myself, Lance fan, Mr. Ethan Barry, and Macon Adams. And we are so excited to talk a little bit of football, but definitely a good bit more about basketball than I would say I would have predicted us to be talking about 12 days before football season kicking off here. But before we get into that, though, I do want to talk a little bit about, first of all, I've already mentioned how excited I am for sure about NC State football season getting kicked off. I'm so excited about, just finally getting some NC State football back, especially too a little bit earlier than we typically do. But I'm especially excited to get fantasy football back started too as well. I know Macon and I were in a little bit of a dynasty league here, and Macon has done a great job of stringing me along to make sure that I keep my lineup updated. But Ethan, I did want to ask you though, because I know we've talked a little bit about him. Obviously, for us to set anything up here between now and the start of the season will probably be incredibly difficult here. But listening to James IPS and a couple other people's too as well, they love their college football fantasy draft. And I'm sitting here like, listen, Ethan, I'm too analytical, I'm too preparation focused. Like, dude, Ethan, my fantasy football draft prep starts like back in June. And just trying to listen about names, and things like that. But where would I get that from a college football perspective, man? Like I guess you just got to go off of vibes, right?
For college football fantasy?
Yeah, college football fantasy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've played a few, I think a couple of years of college fantasy. I don't know. Like, there's so many players in college, I just view it as different in the NFL. Like in the NFL, like you can legitimately run out of players, but in college, you can go find a small school player or who's got a good matchup or whatever. So I don't know. I've never done prep for college. I know I'm with you for fantasy, for dynasty. I have a couple websites that I use, listen to podcasts, stuff like that. Like it's a year round thing. For college, I'm sure it's out there. You can always you talked about James. You can always ask James Henderson. I mean, that man is in at least 25 to 30 fantasy football leagues, and I'm sure he doesn't think that's enough. So
that's crazy.
I'm sure you can talk to him about it.
That's crazy. Wow. I've tried it once before to look into I think it was college basketball or something. It was just a whole different world. I mean, it was just kind of odd. Now, I guess laying the short answer, I think you could use the shortcut is just Chat GPT or AI everything. Yeah, who should I draft? Like I think with college football or basketball, because it is a lot different than the pros being studied so much.
Yeah, no, but hey, it's so I'm in 4 leagues right now. The Dynasty League. I'm in a family league. We've got a family and friends league that actually Greg's in, which we're gonna be drafting in tomorrow night. We're actually gonna be drafting from Medios too as well. So if you are nearby, or just definitely come on, swing by Medios, enjoy some amazing food, an amazing atmosphere, but also too as well. Me and the crew will be there to not Ethan crew, but Smith family crew will be there enjoying some food.
I'm not in the friends and family group yet, right?
Me neither, Ethan. So we see how it is.
Hey, it's okay, Lane. I won't hold it against you. Well, let me ask you guys this: how many fantasy leagues is too many to be in?
Here's my thing.
I got an answer, but it's kind of unorthodox to answer a little bit. So go ahead, Lane. Go for it.
My issue is I don't want to be in so many leagues where I have let's say I'm in 6. I don't want to have 4 where I have 1 player and 2 that I don't. I'd rather go all in on 1 guy. I don't want to be partially cheering, but also partially cheering against a player. That's my thing. Macon, what would you say?
To me, too many leagues is whatever number it is for you, where it starts being I really start obsessing and can't spend time with family and cut it off and that kind of thing. That's the number. Whatever that number is to you, where it becomes too much of a priority in your life, and that's for everybody to decide that. For me, I'm in, I think I'm on 4 different leagues, something like that. I'm in 1 redraft league and I think 3 different dynasty leagues. So I'm actually going to commission one for for a group of coworkers. So it's fun. Like I love it, whether it's NFL or like I said, even college sports. The season's here late, and you mentioned it in 12 days, and that's just like you just start getting that itch to analyze football, and it's going to be here before you know it.
Yeah, 1 year I got second in my league, and I got so obsessed with it that starting in like February I started doing mock drafts, and my wife had to kind of talk to me about that a little bit. So, but with that being said, though, so Rusty wanted us to comment on the quote unquote controversial article by the technician, and won't necessarily call out by names, but there was an article that came out talking about Doeren, and the headline of it is "Don't let the Doeren hit on the way out" here, and talking about how he has a sub 500 conference record, he has 0-10 win seasons. Technically not true, but obviously it wasn't completely. Yes, he didn't win by playing football games, 10 games. I get it. 0 ACC championship appearances, sub 500 record in bowl games. Saying the ceiling is harder to accept given the talent on the roster. It's time that NC State athletics decides not to settle. Here's my thing. I wanted to actually make this comment anyway, but then Rusty and mentioning this article kind of made the point for me perfectly. I don't know about y'all, but around probably like a month or so out, I started watching some old NC State football games just to kind of help get the juices back flowing. So I've watched last year's Georgia Tech game probably 2 different times. But I'm a little bit weird in the fact that I actually watch a good bit of 2013 NC State football stuff back for 2 reasons. One, I know, intentionally. Here's my thing, Ethan. First of all, because that was my first year being a part of.
Just snap that neck like what?
What the heck? I know. Here's my reasoning. Trust me, I'm not. This is no hot take. Trust me, I'm taking a break from hot takes for a while. No, first of all, because it was my first year being a state football equipment manager. So just like thinking about, my first practice I was a part of and how I had no idea what the frick I was doing and just trying to stay out of the way and not get in trouble. But also too, as well, that NC State FSU game in 2013, I just watched it just to be like, oh my God, we were so bad. And we got like, I have not seen, I've not seen many games where it was that dominant, scoring 35 points on us in the first quarter, and Brandon Mitchell just covering his eyes with his left hand, and just there's Brian Underwood down there somewhere, just tossing it up and getting picked off. Like it was, oh man. So my point being is that NC State fans sometimes love to point out the sub 500 conference record, to which I can immediately point out, dude, Doeren was not given squad douche. He was not given the Mark Gottfried treatment whatsoever. He was not given Scott Wood and CJ Leslie and Richard Howe and Lorenzo Brown. He was not given that. He was given Rashard Smith, like T.Y. McGill.
There were a couple draft picks on that team, but yeah, overall, I would love
Deontay Johnson.
I actually, yeah, I talked about this on the Patreon actually. Like this was such a different era of college football and athletics in general. I get it. Dave coached those games. What did we really expect to happen? Like,
dude,
what did you like? If Tom O'Brien coached that team, like
it would have been also terrible,
right? Like I like. So it's hard for me to hold that 0-8 against Dave. I really don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take those 8 losses off of his overall record, he goes from 48% winning percentage to 52% winning percentage. Now, if you're a Dave hater, I don't think that really changes your opinion. But
nope.
Getting to over 500, like maybe that does matter somehow. So I think I'm with you, Leighton. Holding that against him is just absolutely that's asinine to me, and that's just looking for something to cry about, I guess, for lack of a better word. I didn't read the technician article because I did think it was kind of just clickbaity. It feels like they have one of those every year. And I did write for the technicition, so
that's what I was about to ask you. I was like, hey,
yeah,
did you write that one? Did you write one of those years, Ethan?
No, I didn't write it. I didn't write anything. I don't think I wrote anything that really got a ton of traction like that.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I may be forgetting this one, but anyway, I didn't read it. The timing is very odd, for sure. I don't know why this student newspaper is agreeing to write that right now. If you want to write it in a couple of weeks, a couple of months, okay. But I don't agree with the sentiment. Like the sentiment kind of implies that like there's some huge ceiling without Dave Doeren. And again, that was just the title of the article. There's absolutely no evidence in 125 years or whatever of NC State football that is true. There's just not. Like,
Why
NC
write
State
it
has
now?
one.
Why write it now? What are you
I don't know.
trying to do by writing it now? So
I don't know. My last thing on it, I would say this: NC State football has won, and this is basically a short form of my Patreon actually from last week. But NC State has won 10 games one time in school history, one time. And I get it; they won it, some ACC titles back 50 years ago. Again, now I don't know why we can even care about that anymore, or pretend like that means that you should be winning them now. But you needed Phillip Rivers and an extra game on the schedule to do it. You had 4 cupcake non-conference games in 2000, and was it 2 or 3, whatever. Like, there's no reason to believe that if NC State fires Dave Doeren that, there's like, it's going to be Indiana football, and maybe that happens, but like there's no precedent to act like that's something that's going to happen.
Here's my thought with all that. You mentioned the point. They're just people just looking for someone to cry about, Ethan. And for those people who want to hate on Dave Doeren for that. Okay, so the season, I'm not getting too far advanced here, but like the season, let's say some people project State could win, 10 games. I saw one article that says State could go undefeated, whatever, which is kind of crazy. But if they were to go win 10 wins this season, something's happened twice. Now, at that point, twice in school history. Those same people who hate on Dave Doeren for being the point where they are, like, he's sub 500 or he's whatever, they would still probably find a way to hate on him. Well, he didn't win whatever in that season. Like, he didn't make it CFP. And, so what? He had one really good season. And then your counter would be like, dude, you're mad now because he did something that's never happened only but one time. And now it's happened twice. Like, if that were to happen, those same people would still hate Dave Doeren, and they're just there's
the
no
goalposts would move for sure. Yeah,
exactly.
Yep. Well, and listen, I've dipped my toes in listening to New York sports radio enough to know. Listen, there's just some people out there that just love being miserable. That just really enjoy the fact that they get to whine about their team today. Just they're so excited by it. They love it. So. But listen, we're not hating on it. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. But listen, like we're 12 days before season starting, and this could be a great year. So let's just focus on that and move forward. But speaking of the great years, though, this year just got a little bit better here for NC State men's basketball and Justin Gainey and NC State fans worldwide, as Ven-Allen Lubin has announced that he is back, and he was back at practice today, even too as well, rocking a little bit of a new hairdo as well, a little bit shorter hairdo there. But man, I saw that news and the emotions was crazy to say the least, for sure. So Macon, give me your initial reaction when you saw that notification on your screen that Ven-Allen Lubin is returning to NC State for his 5th year of eligibility.
Yeah, I thought, man, that's just a sweet addition, and it's nice for like the personal reasons with Will Wade, like kind of take a jab at that, whatever. But it's like Ven-Allen Lubin was a really good offensive player. He averaged over 13 points per game, and I want to say he averaged over 7 or 8 rebounds a game.
Yep.
And everybody was hating on him. The jokes running around, he's a 6'8", 6'9" center or whatever. But like the guy can play. He's definitely an offensive player. And this is just an added boost where we had discussions here on the show a few weeks ago where you don't know, there really could be a rotation. I think the most interesting part of this team on as far as rotation goes is going to be the front court this next season, because you have options with Lubin now, Jurkovic, you got Yalaho at the 4. I even mentioned Kyle Evans at the 5. Who's to say when Mikey Wilkins could play, if at all, now at this point? So, I'm really excited what it means for State. I don't know. Do we want to go into the stats, Layton? I don't know how far I want to go into this, but it's
that's my stat pack. Whoa.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I want to make sure about that. It's a really nice addition on the offensive end. I'll just leave it at that. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, listen, guy in Ven-Allen Lubin who last year, like you said, making 13.6 points a game, a team high 7.1 rebounds per game, 66.8% from the floor, had 8 double doubles, double figures in 27 of the 34 games, which is also too, I think,
Really, I actually
probably
didn't
the
know
most
that.
impressive stat. But again, I don't want to ruin Ethan's stat pack. But the one thing I do want to say is, you know what? And we're going to jump over actually, since we don't necessarily have it here, we're going to jump on over to really, you know what grinds my gears here to give this justice
You know
here.
what really grinds my gears?
First of all, to the probably 2 different UNC accounts that I noticed that were, griping at NC State fans saying, "Dude, like, what is it with you guys and Will Wade, man? Like, it's like he's your ex-girlfriend or something like that, man." It's like, listen, I even tried to think about like Ethan making help me out. Like, is there a UNC equivalent to what that man down in Louisiana pulled on NC State? Like, I try to think about like,
Well, the fact that they got so much national attention when all the stuff unfolded, in the springtime,
right.
that I don't think there's really many schools ever who have that situation happen to them,
Not like that.
especially with the nature of the transfer portal now going on and what the implications are with that. So, and
Mhm. Yeah.
especially with his old background with the whole FBI scandal, I'm a clean cut guy now. I realize who I am and what I need to go. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's nothing UNC that I can think of. They've had such a long tenure with some really great coaches,
Mhm.
but yeah, I don't think there's anything like that.
I mean, literally, Ethan, I literally watched and listened back the Will Wade, introductory press conference today just to like, okay, now the hindsight 2020 here, let me listen back here. And first of all, we've already talked about it, but man, it was so cookie cutter to our introductory press conference. It wasn't even funny. Our time is now. But the quote that really stood out to me, Ethan, which I want to talk about, was he said, "We're gonna go find 15 players in the portal that want to wear those letters LSU on their chest." And I'm sitting here like, are you going to find 10 players? Are you going to find 8 players? Are you sure you're going to find 5 players? Mr. Wowe, that's my question. You're sitting here right now with 4. So, I mean, and you came particularly at 2 of our players that you heavily pursued in Paul McNeil and Ven-Allen Lubin here. And you're 0 for 2, my friend. So, listen, the national media, I would love for First Take to talk about. Hey, they love talking about Will Wade and what he did, but listen, man, it in my opinion, it says a lot about Will Wade and the fact that 2 of your star players from last year, who you probably offered more money than we did, still said no to you.
I think that's a great way to sum it up. It
Mhm.
says a lot about Will Wade. Like you're right. I don't think NC State was the highest bidder.
Mm,
Certainly not on Paul McNeil, and I highly doubt on Ven-Allen Lubin. And so number one, I do think it says a lot about both coaches, and I think it feels like probably maybe a little overreaction. Um, and like, is it more so one or the other? But ultimately, like, I think it's a great sign for Justin Gainey that he's now won a couple of recruitments, head to head against Will Wade, makes it a nice story and catches headlines, but
mhm,
ultimately, like, not as the highest bidder. And, does Will Wade, do his actions help NC State here? Yeah, sure. But NC State still has to go out and win the recruitment.
mhm.
Like those weren't the only schools. Excuse me, LSU wasn't the only school on Paul McNeil and on Ven-Allen Lubin, right? Like
Yeah.
Oklahoma was in it with Ven-Allen Lubin, right? I'm sure there could have been more too. And for McNeil, like there was a number of schools that got mentioned with him. And so to me, it's probably equally like a great sign for Justin Gainey that he was able to win those recruitments while not being the highest bidder, and a bad sign for Will Wade and potentially more trouble to come in future years. That if this stunt is going to cost you down the road, I never really thought it will, because I kind of still view it as, at the end of the day, money talks, and maybe
Yeah.
it's a 1-year thing. Who knows? But being as significantly bidding significantly more money and not winning those recruiting battles, like that's concerning.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
like that's concerning. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think there's reaction on both sides to this, but again, I'm just pumped. Like, to me, these guys coming back would be huge news for state fans, for state in general, right? Not just fans, whether it was LSU or whether it was somebody else. And so the fact that it is Will Wade going to LSU does maybe make it a little bit more of a storyline, but to me, that doesn't change the excitement about getting those guys back and the team that you've put together for next season.
Yeah. You got Rob here in the chat saying, wow, the guy who will not be named is getting his just desserts. And then Chilton saying, I could not be happier for LSU and their 5 basketball players. Do they have 5 now? I thought it was still 4. But yeah, I mean, so because the other thing that really grinds my gears is thinking back to when the transfer shooting guard from Wake Forest who committed to Tennessee.
Juke Harris.
Juke Harris, thank you. When he committed to Tennessee, all kinds of NC State fans were saying, oh, so even without Justin Gainey, who was this great recruiter, Tennessee was still able to get one of the top transfers in the portal here. And now, just like you said, Ethan, now you're seeing Gainey, start to show his recruit muscle a little bit here. So again, NC State fans got to give Gainey all the props in the world here for sure, and especially too because Ethan, I wanted to ask your thoughts too on this. Do you feel like in order to get Ven-Allen Lubin that, Gainey, whoever it is on an internal basis had to go to some boosters and ask for additional funds to make it happen?
Oh, no question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ven-Allen Lubin certainly wasn't cheap. He wasn't cheap last year. Was probably, I think, probably more expensive this year. And as far as as far as I know, NC State was out of funds. Like that,
Mhm.
Paul McNeil. I mean, I know they added Yurkovich afterwards, but Paul McNeil was it. Like that was the last of, not the last, but I guess the last of significant use of funds. So yes, I think they did have to go back to some big time donors who have a lot of cash and love NC State basketball. And I think a number of reasons that you're able to win that recruitment, but you look at it saying, hey, this is one of our guys. We got him from UNC. He had a great year for state, and you're recruiting against Will Wade, right? Like that's a great sales pitch. Say, hey, we don't need to be the highest bidder, and you can use Paul McNeil as a reference. We won that recruitment without being the highest bidder, and we beat Will Wade, and how awesome was that? Now we have a chance to do it again. So that's kind of the way I view it, where, yeah, you definitely, like, this wasn't like, oh, state just had a pile of cash. They went to the bank and took some money out of the checking account. I don't think that happened. But yeah, I don't know. Like, that's kind of, I guess that's my impression of it.
Yeah. So we'll jump on back over here to our normal background here. So, but Macon, I want to ask you though, first of all, in your opinion, because everybody is immediately, it seems like, kind of penciling him in at the 4 spot. Last year he shot 66.8% while being played mostly at the 5. Do you really view it that way, Macon, that Ven-Allen Lubin last year was out of position at the 5 and that he's more designed at the 4?
No, I think the way he plays is more resembling a 5. He's just maybe a smaller 5 than what people would like to see, generally speaking, because people think 5s are thinking, 6'9", 6'10", or above. He is 6'9", but I would just think he's people. I saw some joke somewhere about how he went from 6'8" to 6'9" in the offseason. That's cool, but the for him, I think he could play the 4. Uh, he would definitely I benefit if he could have some sort of stretch play there. I don't know if he has that in his game, which is why I tend to think plays more like a 5. But I don't know what that could look like. Could they have a setup where they want to have a couple bigs playing the floor that rebound the ball well, and you get Lubin and Evans on the floor at the same time to do that? Have some interesting offensive setups, or Yurkovich or Lubin, or Yurkovich and Evans, or you get, I don't know what the best combination is here, which is why I say the rotation in the front court is probably going to be the most interesting thing for me to watch as the season develops heading into ACC play. Because you kind of know in the guard spots what you're going to get. It's going to be Ed Mead, probably Hammond, and then McNeil 1, 2, 3 starting lineup. But you just don't. I mean, there's really a lot of combination there. You can go at the 4 and 5 spot. So we'll see. But I do think Lubin could play, some 4. I just think he's probably, as of what we saw last season, his game's more of a 5 in my mind. So
Yeah, no, agreed.
Yeah,
And
I think
go
he
ahead, Ethan.
plays out of position at the 4, right? If that's the way, like you talk about, is he playing out of position at the 5?
is
No, I
that
think
the question? Is that the question? He plays out of position in the 4 spot, like he should be playing a 5.
Well, just which position is he more natural? Like, what's his natural fit? The
5.
5 or the 4?
Yeah, the 5 for sure. He's a little undersized, but I think the way he plays, it just doesn't matter. And to me, we've grown accustomed to NC State basketball, right? And it's kind of weird. Maybe not weird is not the right word, but the way they use the 4 has been the same across multiple coaches. You don't have to play that way. You don't have to say, "Oh, this is a small ball," using quotation marks, right? 4, who, okay, we're going to prioritize 3-point shooting. Like you think about like Jericho Helms, Doeren. I'm trying to think like in more recent years, obviously Darion Williams. You had Dontrez Styles with Kevin Keats. You don't have to play that way. You can play 2 bigs, right? Like it's not against the rules. And I do think with the way that basketball has kind of evolved over the last 10, 15 years, people have just gone to more shooting, more shooting, more shooting. You ask me, I think NC State has enough shooting with the other 3 guys, with the bigs that you're bringing off the bench, to say, hey, Ven-Allen Lubin and Kyle Evans are good enough at everything else. We have enough good shooters around them. We don't really care about the 3-point shooting. That's the way I would be approaching it.
Yep.
Again, just because they're good enough at other stuff. And you have enough you have enough shooting. You're allowed to play big. And so this to me is more like a, one of those vintage Roy Williams teams where it's like they're playing 2 big guys. This is how Tennessee played. Tennessee played with 2 bigs. They were playing 2 guys at 6'9" the majority of the time. And the last thing, well, I don't know if it's the last thing because obviously it's a big talking point. But another thing I would throw out there is you talk about how they're going to play together. I don't know how much they're really going to be playing together, right? If you give them both 25 minutes a night, that's only 10 minutes of overlap. You're playing the other 30 minutes of the game with only one of them on the court.
But also too, depending on the opponent build, I mean, an Evans Lubin duo at the 4 and 5 could work, and that could go up against any big build out there that State's going to see the next season.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. And, again, like there's issues with it. It's not a perfect fit, but to me, it just doesn't matter because Lubin is such a good player. And same thing with Evans. Like, I don't want to take either one of those guys off. And so to me, it's the other guys, the guys that you would be playing to play small that kind of take a hit. But I don't remember where I saw this example, somewhere on the wonderful internet. The greatest shooting team of all time, the Golden State Warriors, they played 2 non-shooters, Draymond Green and then a center, before they kind of before they became the vintage Warriors and played Draymond at the 5. But they played a center, they played Andre Iguodala who didn't shoot, they played Draymond Green who wasn't a shooter, but their other shooters were good enough to where it didn't matter. And again, not that Preston Edmeade is Steph Curry and that kind of stuff, but it's kind of the idea. Like you have 3 guys that can shoot it at a well above average clip.
I don't know, Ethan. I think it was Max Kellerman, if I'm not mistaken, that when he was asked if the death beam was pointing at the Earth, fade of Earth on the line here between Iguodala and Steph Curry, which one he'd take? He said Iguodala, man. So I don't know, Ethan. Maybe they had 4 shooters. No. Listen, that's a hot one to say the least.
Hey,
but yeah, go ahead.
Most underrated guard on that whole Golden State Warriors team run was, to my opinion, was Sean Livingston. That guy could play.
Yeah, for sure.
Another guy who wasn't a shooter. He was a mid-range guy.
Just going to say, yeah, it was a beautiful thing to watch.
So obviously the big question now is, okay, what does this do for NC State? And from a national media perspective, it definitely hit a spot for sure, saying for NC State to be able to get a big this late in the game with this much proven efficiency is extremely impressive to say the least. But now what does it do in terms of projections here? So Macon, where would you kind of put NC State now in terms of among the ACC? Like top 8, top 6?
Yeah, I'm going to say they're definitely a top 10 team. They probably were fringe there maybe a little bit earlier on, maybe a little bit like, top 7 or 8. I think now you start to get State in the discussion of, are they a top 5 team, particularly on offense? But the defense, we kind of know it might. You're not. I guess the word is the expectations heading into the season are you may not be the biggest, baddest defensive team out there. You're just kind of banking and hoping that Justin Gainey can, embrace his coaching pedigree in the defensive side of the ball and help scheme up some things with this team. But
Exactly.
I think this team could surprise the people. And what I'm also gathering from things I've read and heard is that maybe this time around with Patrick Stacy, they're going to try to utilize more of the statistics. Hopefully they do that. But I think this team is going to be a fringe top 5 team in the ACC. I don't know if they will be. They could be for sure because some of these schools like UVA last season, nobody thought they were going to be where they were, and they ended up being a top 2 team, right? So State can do that. The big question mark is what is Gainey going to be able to do and coach out of this team in year 1? That's really the biggest thing to me because you're a little bit smaller at the guard spots there. You're not the guys you brought in, other than Kyle Evans being the obvious like major defensive piece there. You're not viewing and each of those pieces is like, oh yeah, defensive prowess. They're going to be a baller on the defensive side of you're hoping that with the offensive skill set. I know Gainey's talked about they try to prioritize shooting because shooting can translate across multiple levels in college basketball and maybe professional basketball. That the coaching from Gainey, getting the schemes right, guys doing the good technique on defense, playing smarter, will help offset some of the deficiencies you may have on that side of the ball. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think Make It said it best, Ethan, which is I think that what each of them gives you without Gainey even having to do anything on the offensive side of the ball, the fact that I think you even pointed out, Ethan, that they from a projection standpoint could be a top 10, even top 5 team offensively, in the country. You just lean on the fact that Gainey's MO is his ability to coach defense and trust that he can develop in that area and hopefully give you a great 1-2 punch there. But in your opinion, Ethan, do you agree with Macon about just that they could be a top 4 team, or do you truly do feel like, okay, now with the experience that you have, with the fact that you have multiple guys on this team that are going to the season with a chip on their shoulder, with the fact that Ven-Allen Lubin didn't even expect that he was going to be back in state, so he's going to want to make the best out of this season for sure. And also too, like with Paul McNeil, he wants to get in the NBA, first round lottery pick conversation. With Preston Edby, Christian Hammond, guys that probably overlooked by most people, saying, well, you guys came from smaller schools, unproven, can you translate to the ACC? Like Macon said, a lot of people say smaller. Well, guess what, I'm gonna play my butt off. And so I don't know, I just really love the fact that you have a lot of leadership on this team. You have 2 guys in particular, and McNeil and now Lubin, that are going to be starting for you, that played at NC State last year. And you have a lot of talent here on this team here. So I really do feel like that there's a lot of boxes that are checked now with this team.
Yeah, I think Macon covered it well too. The defense is the question. And, there's an element of Justin Gainey gambling maybe on his own pedigree as a defensive coach and saying, hey, I can coach this. And is there an element you always hear, it's always coach speak to hear, well, if you don't defend, you're not going to play. But how often do we actually see that? I don't think really that often. Certainly with not any of NC State's last 3 coaches, I would say. Keats,
Wade and Gottfried. And again, I think you've kind of got to be careful with making that threat because you better back it up, right? I don't like if you make that threat to the guys at the guard spot, what are you going to do? Are you going to take Preston Edmean off the floor if he's not defending? And do what? Like, that would be my question. What are you going to do? So I think there's an element of, okay, at the 4, sure, Ven-Allen Lubin and Kyle Evans, if you're not defending, we got 2 other guys we can run out there. I don't know that that's the spot that's true at the guard spot. And so, can you coach the defense? Can you coach the quote unquote effort? Can you scheme the defense? To me, that's the real question because State's at this point a projected top 10 offense on Torvik's projection system. Defense is still in the 70s, which again, I would bet on State's defense certainly being better than the 70s. So, but again, like how good can you get? And to me, that's kind of why this group is enticing, exciting. There's a lot of, we always use upside as like, all right, how much upside is there? And I don't know. I think we kind of overblow that sometimes, but we're talking about a defense that's in the 70s and a coach that has routinely had one of the very best defenses in the country. Like, we're not even talking like top 25, top 10. We're talking like number 1 defenses in the country at Tennessee. And again, you don't have to get to that level, but can you get to the top 25? Then how good are you?
Right. And my wonder is how much of playing well defensively is just a want to. Because some guys are so much now, they do AAU ball and it's all offense, right? There's no defense involved. And there's not a whole lot sometimes some of the NBA game either, in my opinion. But like you've got some guys that I think Gainey is going to grill it into them, in my opinion, on the defense side of the ball. You got to get the buy-in to play defense, in my opinion. And there is some intelligence there. You're going to have to do technique, right scheme, talking, communicating with your guy, knowing when to cut a lane and when not to, like those kind of things. But I think it's going to be, if we just want to, I think we're going to be fine.
Agree.
I guess. So.
Agree. Yeah. And again, I have my eye on those 3 guard spots because I don't feel great about what's behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have to throw Emily Yalaho out there, and again, like, this is hypothetical talk. Guys aren't going to quote unquote want to play defense. If you throw Emily Yalaho out there because you don't like Lubin's defense, you're okay. If you have to throw again Kingston Whitty out there because you don't like Preston Edmead's defense, or if you have to throw Darius Adams out there because you don't like Paul McNeil's defense,
exactly,
like much different conversation. So there's going to be a balance there. There's going to be how do we figure this out? The one thing I would point to, and I think Macon, I think we were texting about this, is the defensive rebounding. I expect you to be much better on the defensive glass now with Lubin. To me, that was a real question. And again, that's been one of the strengths of the Tennessee defense. It's been rebounding, right? They've played big. They defend the rim. They rebound well. And again, State's their last couple of coaches, they've had coaches who want to try and force turnovers and they don't prioritize rebounding. We saw what happened when NC State collapsed last year. Their rebounding fell apart. So now that you have 2 excellent rebounders, does that change things? I think it does.
Yeah.
It's going to mean teams are going to have to shoot well against us. They're going to have to be, because the whole point of defensive rebounding, it's a one and done game for the opposing team. So if you're shooting well, you can't beat a good shooting night for most anybody. But yeah, I think Adam Lubin definitely helps you on the defensive rebounding side of things.
Now, the last question, which I want to ask is, so how much money does this leave for Hangleton? Like $5. I think we're moved on from here for Hangleton.
Maybe if we're at 5, I can give another 5, so we're at 10.
I don't think Hanglotten, I think is just how you pronounce his last name. I don't know if now that you've got a Lubin, I don't know if but it might be.
Yeah.
I don't think that was ever a realistic possibility.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Well, I did want to ask though, Ethan. Well, I've noticed that you got a little dinner there during the show. Am I correct? What were you
it's some cookie dough. You guys ever had edible cookie dough?
Some cookie dough.
It's so good. My wife makes edible cookie dough. It is so good.
Ooh, man. Wow. I do got to ask you, Ethan. Has your wife does she make her cookie dough with Oconee Gold barbecue sauce at all?
No, but that's next on the list.
That's dude.
Oconee Gold sugar cookies.
There we go. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, listen, it's only a 3 on the heat gauge. It's medium, so it's not gonna blow you away. But man, I mean, your taste buds would go, oh man,
Wouldn't know what the
okay,
heck is happening.
what is going on here? Okay, maybe not for cookie dough, Ethan. Yeah, we'll leave your lovely wife's cookie dough alone here, but definitely for those other meals though. I mean, for me, my Oconee Gold jalapeno, love them on our ribs, man. Especially with football season coming up here. That game 1 versus Richmond, you can best believe that probably 2 or 3 of these are gonna pop up here. But definitely want to give a shout out though to our amazing sponsor, Oconee Gold Barbecue Sauces and Rubs. Go check them out. www.oconee, which is OCONEE, goldbbqsauce.com, and use the code TuffyTalk, all one word, to get 15% off your entire order. Again, they got delicious sauces. They just came out with a brand new Georgia peach barbecue sauce, which I have not had a chance to try yet, but man, am I ready for it. That is for sure. But they also got your standard vinegar based barbecue sauces. They got your white gold, even too, barbecue sauce, and even too some delicious rubs, kind of that you use for everything. I use a ton for my salmon. My wife and I eat on a weekly basis. Dust some of that Coney dust rub on it, and whoo, man, it's good. So make sure you go check out our amazing sponsor again, Oconee Gold Barbecue at OconeeGoldBBQSauce.com. Use code TuffyTalk to get 15% off of your entire order. So want to jump into it here on actually, since Ethan, you already kind of teased out of here a little bit here, but let's jump on over here to Ethan's stat pack here to hear what you have to say a little bit more maybe about Ven-Allen Lubin here. Woo. All right, Ethan. So what you got for us today?
A lot more about Ven-Allen Lubin. What do you guys have like and there's a number of different ways that we can go here. I've tweeted a few of them out. The one that I like the best is State's offensive ratings from last year. They're starters, at least for me, the projected starters. Ed Mead was a 119. Hammond was a 117, meaning basically their team scored for Ed Mead 119 points per 100 possessions. So basically 1.2, 1.19 points per possession, which is elite. That's excellent. And then Paul McNeil was at a 131. Ven-Allen Lubin was at a 139. And Kyle Evans was at a 129. And this is from Bart Torvik. State overall was a 123. So that just kind of gives you an idea. And that was a top 25. Actually, excuse me, they were 27th. They finished the year. So, and the best, let me pull up the best offense in the country. But I wanted to hear what you guys like. Was there basically the best offense in the country with 133? That was Purdue. So that was what stood out to me. Is there anything you guys had questions about with Ven-Allen Lubin, like statistically that you look at and say, man, I really wonder how much that helps us?
Macon?
Well, you talk about defensive rebounding. How does the defensive rebounding versus offensive rebounding, and I wonder why a player like that would have a better performance on one side of the ball versus another, because it's still rebounding. Like, what do you think's the inside of that?
I think a lot of that is scheme. And to answer your question, Ven-Allen Lubin was an 11.8 offensive rebounding rate, which is a really strong number, and a 17.1% defensive rebounding rate, which was a good number. You know, I think people, like with State's rebounding issues down the stretch last year, kind of, I don't know, fell apart. Like the rebounding fell apart, but I think people sort of had like this misconception of State's rebounding. Ven-Allen Lubin, to me, was not the problem of rebounding. It was more so that everybody else wasn't there. Like the guards didn't rebound. Trey Holloman didn't rebound. Paul McNeil wasn't much of a rebounder. And so, to me, Ven-Allen Lubin by himself at the 5 was an okay rebounder. But there wasn't enough rebounding around him. But again, early in the year, State was a very good rebounding team. Lubin was 13th in the ACC in offensive rebounding rate. I believe that's minimum 15 minutes a night. Like I said, 11.8%. Defensive rebounding, he was 22nd at 17.1%. And again, you're bringing in Kyle Evans, who profiles as a better,
right?
yeah, he was profiled as a better rebounder. And Evans was 21.8%, which was 4th in the Big West.
So you're putting those two together. That's 21.8, basically 22%. And Lubin's at 17%. That's 40% of your rebounds right there. Now you don't need your 3 guards to be great rebounders, right? You still need them to contribute.
Let
And if you're
them
going to
do
be
what
a
they
good
do,
rebounding
basically.
team.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, the number I'm looking to get to is sorry, I got Kyle Evans right here. Evans was 21.8%, which was 4th in the Big West. So obviously a really good number. And then 9.1 on the offensive glass, but that was also 4th in the league. So that was a good defensive rebounding league because there weren't a ton of offensive rebounds out there. But for me, the defensive rebounding number that I'm looking for, where to go, is 30% is around average, right? For a team. So the best, for example, the best defensive rebounding team in the country allowed 22%. So if you get to, 75% defensive rebounding is elite,
Yeah.
right? Like that's top 10. So even just getting to like 70% is probably a little too low. But if you're in that 70 to 75 range, that's probably where you want to be. And you're over halfway there with those 2 guys. That doesn't include your bench. That doesn't include your 3 guards. And so, again, to me, are there questions with how Lubin fits? Yeah, but you look at it, this is going to be an excellent rebounding team. Defensively, in particular, and offensively. And you ask the difference. Again, for me, scheme goes a long way. Do you want to rebound? Some coaches don't prioritize rebounding. And so you have to say, hey, we're going to send 1, 2, 3 guys to the glass on the offensive end. If you send 1 guy, your offensive rebounding numbers are going to look a lot different than if you send 3 guys. And that's really independent of how good your guys are as rebounders. So that's kind of the way I view it. I think rebounding, certainly at least defensively, will be prioritized. Offensively, I don't know. I think we'll wait and see. But defensively, I think this is going to be an excellent defensive rebounding team.
Yeah.
Leighton, you have something you wanted to look at?
Well, definitely excited here to talk about Pack Pro of the Week here coming up here. But when it comes to Ven-Allen Lubin, I think honestly the biggest thing I'm excited about is I think this is going to be a similar mindset a little bit to last year's team, where I think it's going to be a team that's going to be able to get up and down the court in a pretty quick manner for sure here, between Kyle Evans and Ven-Allen Lubin here. So what would you say, Ethan? And maybe this is a little bit of a prediction here. What do you think is going to be the one part of Ven-Allen Lubin's game that he's going to take a step forward in this season? I'm curious.
Or what does he need to take a step
That's a
forward
good
in?
question. Yeah. All right. Well, let me pull up his profile here. I think you probably look at the defensive numbers, his impact defensively. He was about a push. Torvik had his defensive box score plus minus. At UNC, he was at a 2.2, and that dropped to a 0.4 last year. That pretty much tells you State's defense was about the same one way or the other. And I think you need him to be better there. Like, again, if you're going to take steps forward as a team defensively from where you're right now projected to be, you're going to have to find a ways to get better. And I think that's an easy way to do it, right? I don't know. Like, again, he's just so efficient offensively and he's great in his role. I'm not as big fan of asking him to do other things, like whether that's 3-point shooting, whether that's creating his own shot. I don't really love the idea of any of that. So for me, I would look at the defensive side. And Evan Maya has his defensive numbers as well. And there was some Handlaughton talk about, some people preferred Handlaughton, which to me, I wasn't a big fan of. But again, I think Evan Maya's numbers showed, his impact defensively.
Yeah.
And so Lubin was a 1.17 DBPR on Evan Maya, which again was down the list of State's team. Kadir Copeland was better. Darion Williams was better. Musa Sanya was better. Terrence Arsenault was better. So I think you're looking for those overall the defensive impact, not necessarily looking at blocks, looking at steals, and even rebounding to an extent, but saying, hey, we need you to be more impactful. We need to be a better defensive team when you're on the court. And the last thing before we get to our Pack Pro, You guys were talking where State would be in the ACC. They are going to be, and I didn't realize this. Looking at Torvik, they're going to be 26th coming in. I know there was a screenshot going around, I think from the Pack Pride guys about where State's offense would be. That screenshot was not accurate with State's defense. I think it had them like 13th or something. Talked about them being in the
Fake
70s.
Fake news.
Yeah. State's going to be 26th. In that range, I guess. Right now it's 26th, but of course other stuff may change. And that's actually 5th in the ACC, which kind of surprised me. Duke is number 1 and Virginia is number 3. Louisville is number 7. I don't know about you guys. I certainly wasn't expecting to see Virginia up that high.
No.
I probably wasn't really expecting to see Duke or Louisville up that high. I think I knew Duke was there. But Miami's ahead of State too. So we're talking about this team, if they take a step forward, which again, I kind of think they will. Like, I think that's what I like about this team right now is, to me, they are a fringe top 25, borderline is probably the right word, top 25 team. And that's without taking a step forward defensively.
Yeah.
So if you take that step forward, what does that look like? To me, that looks like a bona fide top 10 team. It's top 25 team, I'm sorry. But that's still maybe 5th in the ACC.
Yeah. Well, and a guy that we haven't even mentioned, like Darius Adams, who is, a former, top 100 overall recruit, so, I mean, can he take a step forward this season, too? It's just, there's so many potential pieces here, but no matter what, you still have such a solid floor, I feel like, with what Paul McNeil, what Ven-Allen Lubin is going to give you on top of these other guys that have proven production that I think will translate to the ACC here. So, definitely excited again. So excited to have Ven-Allen Lubin back on campus, and especially in North Carolina and not down south in the Bayou. So with that being said, let's jump on over to our Pack Pro of the Week, yo.
Pack Pro of the Week.
All righty here. So the reason why, I don't know if you noticed, I chuckled pretty hard, while you were presenting here, Ethan, was because I was doing a little bit of preparation here. And did y'all know that former NC State running back Jordan Waters is playing right now with the Rams? Did y'all know that?
Man, no, I'd forgotten.
no
I
idea.
don't think I did know that. I think I remember seeing at one point he was in the league on like a practice squad or something like that, but I didn't know he's actually there. That's pretty interesting.
So he went undrafted. He signed with, I believe it was the Canadian Football League, and he got signed to a futures reserve contract. And he played this past weekend. And not only did he play, he had 5 carries and got 37 yards, 7.4 yards a carry. Got a 72.5 PFF grade, which is extremely high for sure on only 11 snaps. But still, I'm like, I literally had to honestly remember, like, oh my gosh, like Jordan Waters from like 2024. Oh my gosh, wow, like, because and then so huge shout out, first of all, Jordan Waters there for sure. Love to see that. But also too, Jacoby Brissett, man, 5 for 5 passing, 44 yards, a 7-yard touchdown to cap off the opening drive to Marvin Harrison, an 83.8 PFF grade and 11 snaps, which is the best grade of any NC State player so far this preseason. But Devin Marshall with the Jaguars had 4 tackles and a pass breakup, played 33 snaps. And then Tanner Engel started, put up 5 tackles on 39 snaps. But the last guy I want to talk about, Cian Salone, who everybody's talking about with his 1 sack that he got in the preseason, went undrafted. You even have one, smaller creator out there saying, man, looks like the next Max Crosby over here, which I'm like,
Somebody said that.
Somebody said that. Said that sack reminded him of Max Crosby here. But I mean, listen, I think that a lot of NC State fans last year were definitely drinking the Cian Salone and Sebastian Hart's hype juices last year for sure, and rightfully so. But I don't know, Ethan. Of these guys, do you think that besides Jacoby Brissett, who's obviously locked into a $15 million up to $21 million contract this season, do you see any of these 4 guys here having a chance of making the roster here?
I think off of that, Tanner Engel for sure, because he's in year 3, year 4 at this point? Year 4?
Year 4, yeah. Year 4.
So he's stuck around to this point. Is he still with the Rams or is he with somebody else now?
He's still with the Rams.
So, I mean, they've seen enough to keep him around, you know,
Yeah.
for a few years now. Devon Marshall is the guy that I would have an eye on. I think he, again, you mentioned 30 snaps played, flashed a little bit. I think that's a guy who really came on down the stretch last season, was underappreciated in his 2 years at NC State. Yeah, I think Marshall. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I know every last thing about the Jaguars' depth cornerbacks, but it seems like he's a guy that they really like. And even if it's a situation where they don't have room for him, does he hop on somewhere else? Like that's what happened with Drake Thomas, right? He played his first year. He played preseason, I believe, with the Raiders, and then the Seahawks picked him up.
And he had
So
a
I could see
huge
something
career.
like that. Yeah, I could see something like that with Devon Marshall. And Sloan, I mean, maybe. I mean, again, if you're flashing in these spots, you can stick around. Again, I don't think you expect those guys to make the 53 as undrafted rookies. It happens, but it is hard to do. But like Tanner Engel, can you stick around? Stick around on the practice squad for a year, bounce around with a couple teams. And sometimes it takes a year or two to get onto a 53. Maybe it comes later in the season after there's been a few injuries. I think those sort of things can happen. So again, do those guys make it out of camp? Maybe, but I think probably sticking around for a little bit in another capacity, practice squad, whatever, is probably a little bit more likely. But again, yeah, I think both of those guys have looked good and flashed.
Yeah, definitely. So now I want to kind of give a huge shout out here, first of all, to our amazing Patreon too, as well. If you haven't checked out our Patreon, it's only $5 a month and you get a ton of value out of it. 3 videos per week for our members only, plus also to access to our members only rumor chat. And we were definitely dropping a little bit of teasers there regarding some rumors we were hearing about around Ven-Allen Lubin. So make sure to click the link down in the description below. Go check out our Patreon, only $5 a month. Go sign up here today. Well, one video in particular, Ethan, that you did was breaking down of your guesses on why NC State was put as I saw even at one point 6.5 point underdog. Now it's only 5.5 point underdog versus UVA here. But between the two, I mean, one team returns their quarterback, one doesn't. But now it's at UVA, which didn't really swing the spread really much at all, to which UVA fans are really, talking all kinds of smack right now against NC State fans, even though they're offering discounted tickets right now to try and fill more seats for opening game here. But give us a little synopsis here, Ethan. Maybe not the whole naked-boodle here, but a little bit of a teaser here on why you think NC State is sitting at a 5.5 point underdog, even though we have the returning quarterback, UVA does not.
To me, the easiest, quickest way is, and maybe this sounds like short-sighted is not the right word, but like maybe this is too obvious, Captain Obvious, I guess. I think they think Virginia just has a better roster. And if you look at it, like Virginia probably has a more expensive roster. I think people look at Virginia football and just kind of say, oh, NC State's has more talent than them, wins those recruiting battles. I don't know that that's been the case the last couple of years. Virginia has done a lot of work in the portal, and they've hit on a lot of those guys. Chandler Morris last year, obviously the biggest name at quarterback, but they've reloaded on defense, and they're very old. I don't know if you guys know that. I actually saw something earlier that said Virginia is like number 1 in the ACC by a huge margin in number of snaps played, and State is like bottom 3. That matters.
That's
like
deal.
that matters. Those guys have played. They're known commodities. And so to me, that's the reason is they're saying, hey, we think Virginia's roster is good enough at the other 21 positions, essentially taking quarterback out of it, to where we don't really care about NC State's advantage at quarterback. And the other thing could be they may not think NC State has that big of an advantage at quarterback. They may think that Prabula at Virginia is fine. Maybe they aren't as high on CJ Bailey. I definitely think there's that element of it. Like maybe their gap is not as big as common folk, I guess, like us perceive it. But again, every projection model that I've seen, whether you're looking at SP Plus, whether you're looking at pair ratings, there's been a couple other ones that I've looked at that are less well known. They all have Virginia ahead of NC State, or at least very close to where they would still be favored on a neutral site. So I think people really value Virginia's defense, which got a lot better down the stretch after NC State played them. But I would argue, like, if you're arguing for NC State, we've seen these transfer portal things like work one year and then not work the next year. So just because it worked for Virginia last year doesn't mean it's guaranteed to work again this year. I think that sort of lowers your floor as a football team when you say, hey, we're going to go and rebuild every single year. I think you need a basis of high school recruiting to kind of build your foundation and say, hey, we're supplementing with the portal, but we're really trusting our high school guys. I think that gives you a higher floor as a program. But, you know, I think you could probably argue Virginia has more upside than NC State this year because of their work in the portal. So to me, that's why, like, the models think Virginia is better. And again, that's pretty much everyone I haven't seen a model that thinks NC State would be favored in this spot.
And I will add a little caveat to that, or a caveat, a little supplement to that. All ACC preseason selections came out by the media. UVA had 3 selections. They had an offensive tackle and an offensive guard selected. They also had a linebacker, Cam Robinson, selected. NC State had 0. So it kind of shows people how people view their roster. So,
yeah.
Side note: Miami had 8, which is kind of crazy.
I mean, it's crazy, but I'm not shocked at all. You know, so but
good thing we don't play him this year.
Yeah. So with that being said, I did want to jump on, you know, for our last probably about 10 minutes or so here and touch on other big pieces here. So Macon, what you got in other news?
Yeah, man. So it's staying on the football side of things. Excuse me. We have some news coming out. I think the big takeaway that fans saw was regarding the new football jerseys that were out. You know, they had like a black camo kind of look to it with a red face mask. But the main story there is really not just the jerseys and how they look, but it's the partnership with Fort Bragg and the U.S. Army that NC State is trying to grow and establish. We're going to get to see those jerseys, and I think is that also the military appreciation game. Layton is on.
I doubt
that
it.
game. Okay, I didn't know, but they're trying to stay. The game was originally on September 12th. It is now on September 11th, which is a Friday night game at 7:00 against Richmond. Should be an easy game for State. But this partnership, Richmond, it should be. I feel pretty safe in saying that. This partnership with NC State and the U.S. Army and Fort Bragg in particular is being called Wolfpack Warriors, and they're trying to build a connection for different levels, community service opportunities, career opportunities with the university and the Fort Bragg area, education, like having the military opportunities to come to NC State and get, further education or to get a degree. And just really celebrating the military culture and history NC State already has with our ROTC program. We obviously have honored a lot of people who serve here. Everybody loves the military appreciation game. But there's a whole culture that NC State under Kevin Howell leadership is really wanting to embrace moving forward now. And this is really awesome to me. I love it. Anytime you can celebrate what our U.S. military has done for us and our people who serve for their country, and they can build that relationship hand in hand with NC State. And we have a huge base here in Fort Bragg and down in the Fayetteville area. Like it's awesome. Camp Lejeune. Yeah, it's awesome. So we're really excited about that. It's going to be, again, the home opener against Richmond on September 11th. So that's that.
Real quick, I'd be interested in the Wolfpack Uniform Tracker Twitter account to get in on this, but I feel like this has got to be one of the first times in a while that NC State didn't open in the first game of the season in the classic white uniform combo. I feel like this has got to be one of the first in a while.
Last year they had those alternate jerseys. They might have still been white, red, white, but they were different.
for first game of the season for ECU.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And I will
Still.
say,
right?
I just fact
Yeah.
checked myself. The military appreciation game is against Duke on November 7th. So
There you go. Yeah.
But pretty
Yeah,
cool.
usually-
It's September 11th, right? We can honor the military and what they've done for us. Too. It's just
For sure.
celebrating heroes, really, essentially. So, i.e., Wolfpack Warriors. So
Rightfully so. Love that.
there's that, and that's one item because that's the King news this week, and then some other news. We saw some rankings pop up recently that had Paul McNeil rated as the number 11 junior nationally. That is pretty high cotton. I can't remember who exactly put that out, but he's definitely up there in the class. I think if he can build on his defensive prowess in this season, combined with his elite shooting abilities. And honestly, I'm going to also add this caveat. If he can prove he's more than just a shooter, if he can, because he did that in high school, if he can do that and show that in this year, how he can drive essentially and take the ball off the dribble to the basket.
It's to the basket.
That's going to be huge for him. He's one of the best players in the country, but he is one of even the top juniors this year. Football, Jamel Johnson. Guys, he played corner for NC State last year. He is back for NC State, and that is celebrating this whole 5-for-5 rule and all of the crazy court rulings that have come out in the last couple of weeks. He is going to be playing for State this next season. He is a really good player that can add back in their depth, compete for starting spots. Last season, he had 27 tackles, 15 solo, and 5 passes were defended. He was the starting right corner the first 10 games of the season. So if you can get a starter back at the corner spot, that's a big deal no matter what team you're on. So big.
This is making my Andre Evans hot take a little bit tougher. But you know what, Andre? I still believe it, man. It's still your season, brother. Keep the belief. Keep it going, bro.
Yeah. It's like bringing Ven-Allen Lubin back, right? You bring back a starter on cornerback. You got a starter.
That's a big comparison for Jamel Johnson.
I'm just saying from a starter player perspective, it's a big impact on that side of the ball. So
and a position out of need too, as well. Still,
I'm not saying he's going to be like averaging like an interception a game or something like that.
Yeah.
No, Jamel Johnson was a guy that I highlighted on the Patreon a couple weeks back, looked at top options to return. And Jamel Johnson was the guy I picked on the football side, mainly because the others had signed pro contracts. But yeah, I think it was at a position of need too. Like you talked about Andre Evans, but look, if Andre Evans is good, like I think he'll play over Jamel Johnson. I don't think like NC State should feel obligated towards, we got to play Jamel Johnson. And the other thing is he's getting added in late in the process. You know, like I don't necessarily think it's a guarantee that he just shows up and he's ready to be your day one starter. I don't think that's a guarantee with the amount of time that he missed just by he's been away. Yeah.
And curious too as well. I know that one name that was also thrown around with this new 5-for-5 rule was Wesley Grimes, who's definitely making an impact with the 49ers. Do you think there was ever a call to Wesley?
I don't think he signed a contract. I don't think he's eligible.
Gotcha. Dang it.
It would have been nice.
Yeah, it would have been nice.
Yeah.
But so but I also got to give a go ahead. Well, I want to. Do you got men's soccer on that list, Macon?
I'm getting there. We can go there right now, but their preseason, I think, it was rankings, but there are some projections coming out. Everybody has seen what State men's soccer, who had an unbelievable historic season last year, national runner-up in year 2 of Hubbard, Coach Hubbard. This is some people are projecting State to win the ACC this year. In fact, I have a friend of mine who he is a big guy in soccer. His wife actually played collegiate soccer. They follow this kind of thing. And he said that, he's like, dude, I really think, genuinely, I think State could win the national championship this year with the guys they're bringing in the transfer portal, and they've got committed. They were so good last season, and they're just going to probably get better. He particularly mentioned the player from the Barcelona football club that they brought in.
Yes,
I don't
sir.
remember his name off the top of my head, but
It wasn't
State's
Chris Smith, I can promise you that.
State's going to be a probably the favorite to win the ACC this season, unless there's
For sure.
somebody else that really
Easily.
emerges. So that's just amazing for what the men's soccer program has done historically to be doing from that leap from year 1 to 2 to 3. That would be crazy, right? So, just exciting stuff. It's a huge culture shift that I think is probably going to be happening now with men's soccer. I would love to see the same impact that the wrestling program had over a 10-year period happen to the men's soccer program. That would be pretty awesome. Um,
Mhm.
so then the final thing was we have on the football watch list. There's several of those items that we know for all the final end of year awards for best player at a given position. There's a few guys that state has a good chance to have on their list, respectively. So the Doak Walker list is dropping tomorrow. So that would be, is that the best offensive player or the best running back? I can't remember. I think it's best running back. Is that right?
Yeah,
Best
running
running
back.
back.
Best running back.
Mhm.
Yep. And I think people should be keeping an eye out for Duke Scott to be on there. He's already on the Hornung watch list, and there's an article put out that goes around every year, the greatest, the freak list, as they call
Oh, yeah.
it, guys who can pound for pound are just crazy strong. He was on that list, so I think Duke Scott. Me and my dad were talking, and I said, I don't think it's a crazy thought to think Duke Scott could be your first 1,000-yard rusher since, I don't know, was it Reggie Gallaspy, or who was the
Correct.
last 1,000-yard rusher?
2018.
Gallaspy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's a real possibility. I don't know how much Davian Gauze is going to play into that, or even Jonathan Baylor. Maybe if he comes back in a little bit and does some things with it. But I really like what Duke Scott's going to do, and I think he's going to be on that list. And then Isaiah Shirley. I don't know how you pronounce the name of this, the Warfel watch list, which I imagine is the best defensive end or defensive tackle watch list. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's not the Nagurski, which is the best defensive player overall. But that is a guy, defensive end, I think is going to make a really good impact on that side of the ball. Great character guy. So just a few watch lists to watch out for the football team. Again, Blake mentioned it. We are 12 days away. Like next weekend is football, guys. That is crazy. So, yeah, those are some news items that we saw on the social media spheres.
Macon, you left out my favorite news item.
What is that?
The baseball I gotta pull it up so I get it right. They added a lab.
All the equipment? All the equipment?
Yes. Yeah. Let me pull this up so I get the actual name of it right. The
Trey
Maven
Turner.
Baseball Lab.
Oh, Maven. Oh, that's the company technology owner. Gotcha.
Yeah, Maven Baseball Lab. So, hey, real quick on it though. I'm pumped about this. Exactly the kind of stuff that I want to see. This is the sport that baseball has become. It is now it's everything is a science, and so it was great. Andrew Sanders narrated that video. I got way too excited about it. It's the middle of August, but it was just great to see something like that in State's program. And
Mhm.
I've kind of talked about it. Like, I don't know how involved data and analytics and stuff like that was with Elliot Avon. And I think this was implemented. Like, I don't think this just popped up now, but I also don't know how much it was leaned on previously. So,
And
but
they're
from my
leaning on
understanding,
it
it's the first one.
heavily now. They're leaning on it heavily now.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. I mean, it's
I mean,
still,
you get me as
still
far as how they're
yeah.
I think it's interesting how much they're marketing it right now, and maybe it's because it is so brand
Correct.
new.
Yeah.
But
Good
Right.
point.
I mean, again, like this was not installed last week, right? Like
one
this
of
was
4 programs nationally who have this technology.
yeah. Yeah, I think other programs have other stuff that's probably not too far off, cousins of Maven Baseball Lab or whatever. But just the fact that they're using it again, this is one of my talking points with Elliot Avon. It was like, is NC State using the most up to date technology and information? I like to me this kind of tells me no. Like even if this I think may have been part of the program last year, I don't know. Like it seems like this is a Chris Hart thing, I guess, is probably the way I would label it.
Yep. All right. So with that being said, before we fully wrap it up here, one thing I did last week, y'all, to kind of wrap up here our show was do kind of like a express buy or sell segment here. So I have two statements here, and I want to ask you if you're going to buy or sell this. My first one here, and this kind of hits close to home because man, I am wishing for it to happen. NC State football has a chance, but between schedule and performance, to host College Game Day this year.
Hmm.
And this
That's
kind
an
of,
Can I pull up the
interesting
schedule?
question.
yeah, because that's
Because that to
it,
me, that's the main thing. Is it's always like, well, which game is it going to be?
could it be
Now, I
exactly?
think are they doing game day in week 0? Like to me, they should have. If they were, this would have State Virginia would have been the game.
Agreed. Yeah. Well, especially since
Well,
they did.
I mean, honestly, they probably would. They got UNC and TCU in Ireland. I don't know if the whole destination thing would be a thing for them, but I'm not
I don't
saying.
know.
Trust me, we all know how it turned out last
Been
year.
there, done that. Yeah.
But I don't know if they would bring game day to Ireland. But again, I don't think they are even doing a week 0 game day. I don't see the home game for it to happen. We know the sort of
Louisville.
like this is just
Oh, sorry.
yeah, Louisville would be the
Louisville?
one. Yeah.
I guess Louisville's the best
It's
chance.
just kind of evolved into an SEC and Big Ten type of thing. So you would have to have Miami, I think is it. Like unless Florida State or Clemson or there's another playoff team. And that's one of the things that I've always loved about game day that they've got away from is going to new places, going to unique places that make college football awesome. They've stopped doing that. So hopefully they get back to it. I would sell that though, just because I don't see it.
I
How many
agree.
times has JMU hosted it since 2006? How many times have we hosted it since 2006? It's ridiculous.
So
Making
Has
go ahead.
JMU hosted it?
2 or 3 times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I remember App
So-
hosted it.
I'm going to say sell and kind of all the same things that Ethan said. But if we're talking about a chance, I guess there's a not that would imply. If you want to go on technicality, which I wasn't going earlier.
A
It was a
0.1%
chance.
count.
If it's a non-zero chance, yeah, there's a non-zero chance. So I guess that would be 5 if you're going to go off that language. But other games that are going on that week, just in our conference, Miami goes to Clemson. Like that's going to be
All right.
probably
Well,
more desired location than State versus Louisville. And then
I think State's
you said what?
I think the best chance would be getting to the ACC title game and having it there.
Yeah.
bummer.
I will
Go
say
ahead, son.
there's not a lot of other crazy good games that I'm seeing that same weekend that are like, oh my gosh, this is an obvious one. But that's
Well-
probably where I would go if I were them. So
Agreed.
it would be appealing. Like a State is what they would be 5-0 going into that game, if I'm not mistaken. If it would take them going to pick NC State versus Louisville. So
Mhm.
maybe.
4
But
and
I'm just not. Would it be 4-0? So Louisville's the 5th game.
correct. Yep.
I'm not seeing it that early. So
No. The second one though, this one might be more of a buy here. Paul McNeil has a first team All-ACC ceiling.
yeah, I'm going to say that. I don't know who we're waiting on. It's a buy. I mean, that's a buy to me. Like a ceiling, he's
Yeah,
like one of the
ceiling
best
first
shooters
team.
in the country. So if he can just take that and build off of that defensively and or drive into the basket, there's not many guys who can just do what he can do shooting the ball. It's just they just don't they don't fall off trees or anything like that. So he's an elite shooter. He's going to probably be, if he isn't a first team, he's probably a second team shooting guard selection, probably something like that.
Preseason, you mean?
Does it have to be first team?
Well, just so the buy or sell is Paul McNeil has a first team All-ACC postseason ceiling.
First team ceiling, though, is the key word that allows
Right.
some room there. And the answer is yeah.
Yeah, I think so. That stuff is always like a name recognition thing, and I think Paul McNeil has it this year. I do.
He's got the clout to
Oh.
go with it. So it's a buy. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with making their buy.
I love it. Well, good deal. So that being said, we are going to wrap it up there. First of all, I want to say thank you and just go make sure to check out our amazing sponsor, Oconee Gold Barbecue Sauces and Rubs, by going to Oconee, OCONEE Gold BBQ Sauce.com. Make sure to go use that code Tuffy Talk, all one word, to get 15% off your entire order, y'all. So again, thank you to our amazing sponsor, Oconee Gold Barbecue Sauce and Rubs. But also too, as well, thank you to everybody who tuned in here with us for sure, and everybody who watches this back, listens to it on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to it. Do us a big favor if you haven't already. If you're watching us here on YouTube, do us a big favor. Hit that subscribe button. If that button is lit up for you, make sure to smash it here right now. Again, it's free to do and really helps support the channel a ton. But also, too, as well, do us a favor. Hit that like button, too, as well, as that's also free to do. And it helps to make sure that the YouTube algorithm picks it up, puts it everywhere across the world, so NC State fans globally can check out all this content here with NC State football coming up here, even some NC State men's basketball talks too as well. So make sure to go and make sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Also, make sure to go check out our amazing Patreon. Link down in the description below. Only $5 a month. Get 3 members only videos per week, 12 members only videos a month for only $5, y'all. It is amazing value. Make sure to go click the link down in the description, sign up today. And lastly, but if not most importantly, make sure to go give us a follow at Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. But with that being said, y'all, we will see you all soon. 12 days remaining. As always, go.